Wait, if you are buying this for me, there is no need. Damien was saying something as Gazel announced the successive two bids. 600 GP from Raylan Whiteheart. 800 GP from Leonard Tervian, Gazel said, looking at the screen before him. I am not buying it, Asher said as he tapped on the screen before him. 1500 GP from Asher Greville, Gazel announced. 2000 GP from Leonard Tervian, Gazel said. Wait, are they targeting Asher Greville? One of the students in the crowd said. Whoa, it's a bidding war, another student cheered. It was not their money, so they didn't care who was spending and who was getting bullied. It was a free show for the audience sitting here to see the battle of the senior year students. In Blood Faction's room. Yeah, now what? Asher Greville. Alan clenched his fist as he saw Leonard, who was bidding casually while taking a sip from his drink. He was now glad that he had chosen to join the Blood Faction. Leon, don't bully the first year too much, a guy said while laughing. His words made Alan smirk a little as he realized that Asher Greville was not as invincible as he had thought him to be. Meanwhile, in the student council's room, I thought Leon was helping this guy. Raylan smirked as she realized Leonard Tervian's true intention. I heard the rumors he was joining Blood Faction, too, Rhea spoke, and Elena nodded with her. Well, I guess that's what arrogance leads you to, Raylan spoke. 2500 GP from Asher Greville, Gazel said. 3000 GP from Leonard Tervian, Gazel immediately saw the bid increase. What? 3000 GP for a mere D-rank artifact. The crowd of students couldn't believe it. Any more bids? Gazel asked. 3000 GP, 1, 3000 GP, 2, 3000 GP, 3, Gazel counted. Sold to Leonard Tervian, Gazel said, and the crowd loudly cheered. But Leonard was not smiling in his mind. He didn't bid anymore, Leonard was confused, as Asher was known as a hefty spender in the auctions. Some of the first years were cheering for Leonard as they were fed up with Asher's actions. His extraordinary talent also invited envy from others, but they could not confront him themselves, so they took satisfaction in seeing him lose at someone else's hands. But there were certain students in the crowd that were booing for this kind of behavior. They were the students of Class 1, and most thought of Asher as their leader or something. Moreover, it allowed them to act arrogant, as Class 1 was placed as the strongest class due to Asher and Alyssa alone. Let's go. The next D-rank artifact is a bow, Gazel said. It has the effect of enhancing the arrow's damage by some amount. It was a vague explanation, but this was the limit of the runemaster who studied these artifacts. Only top-level runemasters who spent days on one artifact could explain more about these artifacts, but the World Academy didn't want to do that. This produced a risk of getting a useless artifact with a limitation that disadvantaged you. Number 178 bids 300 GP, Gazel said. Number 187 bids 310 GP. Sold to number 178 for 410 GP, Gazel said as the crowd clapped for the winner. Next is AD rank sword. Gazel removed the cloth revealing a sword with a black blade. This is a weapon artifact that increases sharpness more than other swords of its rank, Gazel explained the description, but it didn't sound too appealing to others. 200 GP from Sam Alistair, Gazel said, contemporary romance. Sam's name surprised others, but the bid kept increasing slowly. Still not bidding, Leonard muttered. But he was ready to trap Asher as he would be forced to bid sooner or later. Sitting in Ranker's room, Jack didn't care either that Sam was bidding. Sold to Sam Alistair for 370 GP. Gazel said. Next is a locket type artifact, Gazel announced. This is said to increase mana gathering speed in your body. His words made all the mages happy as they got ready to bid on it. Do you want this? Raylan asked Elena, who nodded back at her. And in the Blood Faction room. You were a mage, right Gavin? Leonard asked. Yeah. Gavin replied with a smile on his face. I will gift you this artifact if Raylan gives up on it. Leonard didn't promise, but knowing him, Gavin was assured he would get the D-rank artifact. Number 1057 bids 500 GP. Another bid from Leonard Tervian for 1000 GP. 1500 GP from Raylan Whiteheart. Gavin was announcing the bids quickly. 10,000 GP from Asher Greville. Gavin announced. What? That's too much, Amelia told Asher, who turned his face. Are you increasing the bids? Damien asked. But they will do the same when you bid seriously, Amelia said. But seeing that Asher was calm, Amelia got silent. Then, finally, she decided to observe Asher. She knew that Asher was always called a genius at business, and even Sylvie, who was quite strict with her work, praised him a lot since he was young. 11,000 GP from Raylan Whiteheart, Gazine said. Raylan, we will overspend if we go like this, Tyrone said, but Raylan raised her hand. Don't worry, we have enough GP to teach this guy a lesson, Raylan said. 15,000 GP from Leonard Tervian, Gazel said. 20,000 GP from Asher Greville. Gazel said. Whoa, how much GP does he have? The students started to predict. Suddenly the auction had become a bidding war at the start of the D-rank artifacts, and it was not supposed to happen until later bids. 25,000 GP from Raylan Whiteheart, Gazel said as the name changed on the big screen above him. 25,000 GP, 1, 25,000 GP, 2, 25,000 GP, 3, Gazel counted. Sold to Raylan Whiteheart for 25,000 GP. Gazel announced, but the crowd was silent now. 25,000 for a D-rank artifact was too much. And only some C-rank artifacts and very few B-rank artifacts were sold at that price. Anyone could see that it was a loss, and previously those who were mocking Asher about losing a bid were now silent. Of course, they knew that he had the money and even more than them, but it didn't matter now that two people who probably had the most GP here were targeting him. After half an hour, all the D-rank artifacts were sold, and there were only a few times that Asher had bid on something. Each of those times, either Raylan or Leonard had taken the artifacts. Gazel was presenting C-rank artifacts when another sword artifact came out. C-rank sword-type artifact, Gazel said as a beautiful white blade could be spotted by the whole crowd. It increases the strength of your aura and the power behind your strikes, Gazel said as most second-year sword users looked at the sword with their eyes wide open. This artifact has a minimum bid of 1000 GP, Gazel said as he started the bid for the sword. 40,000 GP from Asher Greville. Gazel said, and the amount was enough to shake even the second-year students. Got you. Leonard smiled as he picked up the device that was used to call others. 41,000 GP from Leonard Tervian, Gazel said. In Asher's VIP room. You have 40k GP. Amelia almost stood up from her seat. 45,000 GP from Asher Greville, Gazel said. Asher saw a hologram request and allowed it. Oh, it seems a discussion is going on in the VIP rooms, Gazel said as he paused the bid. We will wait for 30 seconds before we resume the bid, Gazel said as everyone looked upward, but all they could see were lavish rooms. A hologram appeared on Asher's table, and all three of them could see Leonard, who was sitting with a smile on his face. It seems you want that sword, Leonard said, knowing it was worth 35k minus 40k GP. An aura-enhancing sword was a rare and expensive item. It had been at least 2 years since such a weapon had appeared at the auction. Normally, if they appeared, they would be around A or D rank, which didn't help people much when ranked up, but for Asher, it would last him 2 years. What if I do? Asher said with an indifferent look on his face. Leonard didn't know why, but Asher's indifferent expression irritated him, although his smile didn't disappear from his face. I have an offer for you, Leonard said. And what would that be? Asher asked. Amelia looked at their conversation with a confused expression on her face. She knew why Raylan would interfere with Ash's bids but didn't know why Leonard Tervian was doing this. Only Damien knew about the 1v20 duel and Leonard going back quietly, so he guessed maybe something happened between them that caused the situation. I don't want to make things too difficult for you, Leonard said with a smile. Honestly, all this was just to make Raylan think we are against each other, Leonard said. I will give you the sword and all the help you need against the student council, Leonard offered. And what will you get from it? Asher asked. Seeing that Asher was getting convinced, Leonard smiled. Your support. Why wouldn't I want the support of the heir of the Greville family himself? Leonard replied. Hearing his words made sense to Damien and Amelia why Leonard would want to ally himself with someone like Asher. However, as an opponent, Asher would be a worst nightmare for any first years and even many second-year students in their viewpoints. And you just need to join the Blood faction, and I will even give you the top seats, Leonard said, but his words made Alan widen his eyes with shock. Why is Asher Greville more important than me? He started tapping his feet repeatedly as his anxiety kicked in. He had joined the Blood faction to get revenge on Asher Greville, but now Leonard Tervian was inviting Asher to the Blood faction and giving him the top position despite being a first year. Gavin didn't care much because he would have offered the same to someone like Asher. He was a person who didn't go after those stronger than him, and Asher was the last person he would go against on his own. Well, your offer is quite generous, Leonard Tervian, Asher said, and it made Leonard smile. You can call me Leon, he said, thinking that Asher had agreed to his proposal. But you are not worth my time, Asher said as he cut off the call. Quote. Leonard didn't understand what had happened. Neither did the people sitting there. They had been bootlicking Leonard for years and still hadn't achieved the top positions of the Blood faction. So only a few people were given the top position of Blood faction. Why did you do that? Amelia asked with a serious expression on her face. Unlike her previous questions, this time, she was serious. There was no need to provoke Leonard Tervian. He was being nice to you, she spoke as she felt Asher's cold gaze. But she kept looking at Asher. She was a bit scared, but this could bring problems for the Greville family as their relationship with the World Association, which had been bad, would worsen even further. Let's not talk about it. Focus on the bid. Damien distracted both of them as he saw that the atmosphere had become a bit serious. It was mainly to protect Amelia, as something in him told him that it was not good for Amelia to provoke Asher any further. I know what I am doing, Asher told Amelia as he turned to look at the stage. In the Blood faction room, Leonard was silent, and the countdown of 30 seconds was about to end. It was the first time someone had spoken to him like that in his whole life. If you want war, I will give you war, Leonard thought in his mind. And we will resume the bids, Gazel said. And we have 55,000 GP from Leonard Tervian. Asher looked at the bid and smirked in his mind. 56,000 GP from Asher Greville, Gazel announced. 70,000 GP from Leonard Tervian, Gazel said. 70,000 GP, 1, 70,000 GP, 2, 70,000 GP, 3, Gazel counted. Sold to Leonard Tervian, Gazel said. The whole Blood faction VIP room was silent, as Leonard didn't have a smile on his face. They were familiar with this side of Leonard Tervian and hoped they would not become the target of his anger. Only Alan was glad about the conversation between Leonard and Asher. Yeah. He is the enemy. Alan looked a bit relieved as he stopped tapping his feet. In the student council room. Leonard paid too much for that, Zua said. I agree, but at least we know his limit now, Raylan said as she smirked. But do we need to do that? Tyrone asked, as there was no point in going into a bidding war with Asher. Don't worry, I will use my own funds, Raylan assured. She was more confident now that Leonard had just wasted a lot of GP. Well, That was a heated bid war, Gazel said. He announced a series of C-rank artifacts, and Asher didn't bid on a single one. Now we will come to the B-rank artifacts, Gazel said, and most people got excited. Only a few people had bid till now, but now everyone would come out and bid for the B and A rank artifacts. The first B rank artifact is a spear. Gazel introduced the long spear with many designs on it. Increased power potential, and other abilities which were not deciphered. His words made many people aim at the spear. Raylan looked at Kevin, who was staring at the spear, and smiled. "I will buy it for you," Raylan said as Kevin smiled at her. But before she could bid, a huge bid appeared on the spear. 60,000 GP from Asher Greville. Gazel said, but he could not believe where this huge amount of GP had come from. His amount was equal to the amount of GP the third-year rankers had, and even Raylan's personal fund was only 65,000, and the rest of the GP was from Reese, and it was to be used for the student council as a whole. Leonard was already out of his personal fund. All he had were the funds he had taken from the Blood faction members. Unfortunately, most of the top members were from elite families, and they would never give up their GPs to Leonard, so he only had 70k GP left with him that he could use right now. 60k was the amount used to bid on A rank artifacts, and Asher had forced him to use more than that on AC rank sword. 65,000 from Raylan Whiteheart, Gazel said. "You don't have to buy it for me," Kevin said, knowing that this was a significant amount for Raylan. "Don't worry about it, it's nothing." Raylan acted cool and composed, but she was angry at losing her chance to get an A-rank artifact for herself, contemporary romance. But she was glad that even Leonard's personal fund would have disappeared by now. "How did you get so much GP?" Damien asked. "Money," Asher replied, but Damien got even more confused. "Did you take it from Eric?" Amelia guessed. "Do you think Eric would have this much GP?" Damien replied, as he also knew about Eric. "Young master, you are showing too much GP." Eric, who was sitting in the ranker's room of the third year, was a bit nervous. Even though he didn't know where this amount of GP had come from, Asher had instructed him not to bid a single time, no matter what. This was the reason Eric was patiently watching the auction happen. In the second-year rank 1 room, Leonard made a mistake. The young man sitting there said, "Well, we should get an A-rank artifact for ourselves," another young man said with a smile. Both of them were rank 1 and 2 for the second-year students of the World Academy. "Well, he should have asked you to deal with Asher Greville," he said, looking at the guy who was rank 1 in the second year. "I am part of the Blood faction, but I have told him not to rely on me, anyways," the guy replied. "Well, the Cranston family is equally powerful as Greville, so you are the best person to pit against Asher Greville," his friend said. "I will not mess with the Greville in Somaria, but out of Somaria, you never know," he smiled. Although he said he could deal with Asher, he would never confront him because he was not the heir of the Cranston family. His older brother was the heir, and he knew what his family would do to him if he caused unnecessary problems with the Greville. But Leon will deal with him. He was not worried about Asher at all. He himself knew what Leonard was capable of after he had experienced it himself. There was a reason most students like him, who were rankers, joined the Blood faction, and it was all due to Leonard's careful trap that they all fell in. They were laughing as Gazel started the bidding for the A-rank artifacts. "At last, now I can bid," he looked at the stage. "There will be only 5 A-rank artifacts, so choose your pick wisely," Gazel said. Asher was waiting for the A-rank artifacts to come out. Amelia had already bought a C-rank combat spell-related artifact, but she still didn't know what kind of spell it was. Damien hadn't bought anything, as he was still fine with the artifact he had received in the dungeon with Amelia. Asher looked forward to the last bids, as he wanted to get one artifact from them. "The first A-rank artifact is this armor," Gazel said. We will not disclose anything about the A-rank artifacts, so you can start the bidding in 5 seconds, Gazel told the whole crowd of students. This was the most awaited artifact that all the senior year students wanted, and they would pay the highest price for it. Why did they put this first? Raylan frowned, as this was not favorable for them. Normally, people would only be able to claim one A-rank artifact, as they would lose most of their GPs purchasing one by outbidding others. But this armor was the most wanted artifact, so most people would go all out for the single piece of armor. We got 50,000 GP from Blake Cranston, Gazel said, as most of the second-year students started cheering. Blake Cranston was the rank 1 student among the second-year students, and he was very famous due to the fact he came from one of the strongest elite families in the world. We got 60,000 GP from Raylan Whiteheart, Gazel said. I can't go more than 80k, Raylan was hoping to get this armor, as this could greatly boost her chances of winning. 75,000 GP from Leonard Turvian, Gazel announced. Leonard wanted this armor, but that was all the GP he had, and if anybody outbid him here, he would lose this armor-type artifact. And all this happened because of one person. If previously Leonard was not fully focused on Asher, after this day, bringing him down would become his main focus. 80,000 GP from Raylan Whiteheart, Gazel announced, contemporary romance. In the second year rank 1 room. Well, I can't go above that, Blake said. That could have helped you a lot, the rank 2 said. 80,000 GP, 1, 80,000 GP, 2, 80,000 GP, 3, Gazel counted. Sold to Raylan Whiteheart, Gazel said, in the student council special room. I think I have messed this up, Raylan said, as she spent most of the GP on her brother and herself. Well, it was your decision, Tyrone replied. Oh, come on, we can get the artifacts in the next auction. And it will happen before the end-term tournaments, Zua replied, trying to cheer Raylan. Ads by Pub Future. Kevin was a bit awkward, and so were the other 3. All of them, except Kevin, had gotten D and C rank artifacts and were not even part of the student council yet. Gazel took out the second artifact, which was a ring. Ring-type artifact, A rank, Gazel said, and nobody knew what the ring could do. The bidding will start now, Gazel said. 20,000 GP from Blake Cranston. 25,000 GP from Leonard Turvian. 30,000 GP from Blake Cranston. 35,000 GP from Leonard Turvian. 40,000 GP from Blake Cranston. 45,000 GP from Leonard Turvian. Both Leonard and Blake refused to give up on it, but they didn't want to spend too much on an unknown ring artifact that could become useless to them. 50,000 GP, 1, 50,000 GP, 2, 50,000 GP, 3, Gazel counted. Sold to Blake Cranston, Gazel announced. Blake was just hoping that his investment was worth it. The third artifact was revealed, and it was a sword again. Leonard's eyes shined as he looked at the dark blue sword. The bidding will begin now. As soon as Gazel said this, Leonard dropped all of his GP. 75,000 GP from Leonard Turvian, Gazel said. 75,000 GP, 1, 75,000 GP, 2, 75,000 GP, 3, Gazel counted. Sold to Leonard Turvian, Gazel said. Asher only had 60k GP on him, so he couldn't outbid Leonard, who used all his GP to cut off any competition, even if there was one. So making such a high bid was his way of saying to stay away from that sword. This year, everyone's show is spending big, Gazel said as he introduced the fourth artifact. Seeing that, the eyes of all majors went big, as it was a rare staff-type artifact. Damn it, many cursed themselves for spending their GP previously. Even though Elena was looking at that staff, she knew she could not buy it. The bidding will start now, Gazel said. 30,000 GP from Asher Greville, Gazel announced, as everyone thought Asher Greville had taken this artifact for show. But they were incorrect, as another bid came in at the last moment. 50,000 GP from Jodie Everett, Gazel said, surprising everyone. Wait, isn't senior Jodie in fourth year? Again, students were confused as to why fourth year was bidding. 60,000 GP from Asher Greville, Asher increased his bid as he waited for Jodie. 80,000 GP from Jodie Everett, Gazel said. And after counting to 3, no extra bids came in. Sold to Jodie Everett, Gazel announced as he came to the last artifact. As for the last artifact, Gazel removed the cloth himself. The crowd looked at the small finger ring armor with 3 black gems on it. Asher looked at it and was determined to take this artifact this time. In his previous life, somebody else had taken this artifact and ruined its value, but he would use it this time. This is the last rank artifact, and you can bid now, Gazel said. 10,000 GP from Asher Greville. 20,000 GP from Blake Cranston. 25,000 GP from Asher Greville. 25,000 GP, 1. 25,000 GP, 2. 25,000 GP, 3, Gazel counted. Sold to Asher Greville, Gazel announced as the crowd started clapping. Asher took the final artifact at one of the lowest prices, as no one was left to compete with him. Your artifacts will be delivered to you in 2 days, Gazel said. And there is an after party for all people in the VIP rooms, so you can go enjoy yourself, Gazel said, but the mood was dull in 2 of the most important rooms. Raylan and Leonard's faces could tell what they were thinking. Even though they had purchased a single A-rank artifact, most of their money was used. This meant that at the next auction this year, there would be many with equal or a bit more GP than them. Even Asher had not used more than 25,000 GP himself, and he made others overspend their money on items that were not worth it. I don't wanna go to the after party, Amelia stood up, as she wanted to go back and train. There was also the fact that she disliked social parties as it tired her out. And she knew that Damien and Asher disliked such parties, so she would rather go back. Yeah, you are going back, right? Damien asked Asher. Yeah, Asher replied. He had done all he wanted and had no interest in going to a party full of people he wanted to kill. His bloodlust had increased significantly over these days, and he wanted to return to the ranker's dorm quickly. And just like him, many people chose to go back rather than go to the after party. But many people still went, as it was the best way to socialize with others. Kevin, Elena, Eva, and Rhea were among them. Raylan insisted that they should go and enjoy their night, as it was their first auction. Kevin wanted to help his sister, but seeing that she could deal with it herself, he decided to go and enjoy himself with his friends. Should we go look for a weapon tomorrow? Damien asked Asher. I have one already, Asher replied. But you bought a ring armor, Damien said, but Asher didn't reply. I will see it in the next spa anyways. Damien didn't pursue the matter any further. The next day after the auction night, news about the auction was already spreading like wildfire throughout the entire World Academy. Leonard was in the third-year student's ranker's dorm. He was sweating profusely as he swung his sword in his training facility. He tightened his grip on his sword as he swiftly performed the special sword art that he had learned from his dad, Osbert Tervian, chairman of the World Association. His mood was worse, but he looked at the sword artifact he had received. A deep blue sword, which shined as if it were made out of a gem, but Leonard could feel its power and knew it was a good investment. But he looked back at the white blade that had cost him 70,000 GP, and it was all because of one man. This C-rank sword had cost him way more than it was worth. But I wonder how your normal sword will perform against an artifact. Leonard was sure that Asher's performance would go down compared to Kevin, who had got an AB rank spear from Raylan. Let's see how long it will take me to destroy you, Leonard said as a smile crept onto his face. Contemporary romance. Meanwhile, Sam Allister was waiting outside the ranker's dorm. It was nearly 11 a.m., and he was waiting for Asher to come down. This does look good, Sam said to himself as he looked at the building. The architecture of Ranker's dome was enough to attract many people, and Sam was no exception. I could have been here, Sam thought for a second but removed his thoughts from his mind. Right now, he was here to deliver something to Asher. When will he come down? Sam had already messaged Asher, so he waited for him to come down. Just as he was about to message again, he saw Asher coming down in his casual clothes. Did you bring the sword? Asher asked, and Sam nodded. Do you want your GP back? Sam said as he took out a black-colored sword from his spatial ring. No, keep it, Asher denied as he took the blade. Finally, Asher felt complete as he was reunited with his sword. I will go back now, Sam said as he turned to go back to the VIP dorms. Asher went back to the 10th floor and entered his room. He took out the D-rank sword again and looked at it. This was the artifact that Asher had carried till his last battle in his previous life. It was the same sword that struck terror when people saw it. This black blade had drunk so much blood in his previous life that Asher didn't even remember the count of people he killed. Ads by Pub Future. Asher already knew that Leonard would try to interfere with his bids and propose an alliance. He had known him well enough to guess his moves and how he thought. Although Asher had a questionable amount of GP, it was still not enough to safely bid on the sword in case Leonard was set on interrupting his bids. The solution was simple for him. Exactly the day Asher and Alyssa returned, Asher called Sam to meet him in the outer sector. It was in front of the trade center in the outer sector. Where is he? Sam looked around to see Asher and saw him standing near the building. Sam walked up, and Asher saw him. So, what do I need to do? Sam asked, not wasting any time. It's quite simple, you just need to buy me an artifact, Asher told Sam, but he made a confused face. I will give you 10,000 GP for the task and make sure you buy the sword at all costs, Asher said with an indifferent look on his face. Okay, can you describe the sword for me? Sam didn't know how Asher could have knowledge about the artifacts in the auctions, as the World Academy made sure the information didn't leak. It will be a pitch black sword, and its description will be about its sharpness. Asher didn't have any other details. Okay, anything else? Sam asked. Asher thought for a second and decided to tell him one more thing. And on the day of the auction, Sam did exactly as Asher told him to do and bought the sword for him. But he was still confused about why he would choose the sword over others when he had so much GP with him, which he still didn't know how Asher managed to get. Asher looked at the sword, and the system started analyzing it. Analyzing artifact. Closing square bracket. Sword of Chaos. Rank D-rank sword. Description: crafted by a mysterious individual possessing extraordinary runic wisdom beyond human comprehension, the sword finds itself shackled by the very hands that brought it into existence. It yearns for its rightful owner to unshackle it. Abilities: increases sharpness in each strike by 15%. Abilities: made by a metal that will not be harmed by attacks below SS rank. Passive: grows to the peak of its owner's potential, sealed to D rank. Passive: locked, requires a key to unlock. Passive: locked, requires a key to unlock. The moment he scanned the sword, the strange tattoo behind his back appeared for a few seconds and disappeared. Now, seeing the sword with the system's description, he could understand more about it. But he also knew about the fact that the sword needed a key, and in his previous life, that key was already broken, and only the first of the 3 seals were lifted. The first seal allowed the sword to become an SS rank sword with no other abilities, but it complemented Asher so well that he never replaced it with other swords. Now for this, Asher took the finger ring armor artifact that he had bought, which was actually the runic pen that was the key to unlocking the runic seals on the sword. Analyzing artifact. Closing square bracket. Rune encryptor. Rank: a rank artifact. Description, crafted by the one who bound his own masterpiece. Within it lies the key to unleash the true potential of the sealed creation. Embedded in the piece are 3 black gems, each harboring the unique means to unlock the enchanting power concealed within. Limitations. 1. The one who wears it and imprints his mana will be marked as the owner, and only that person could try to unseal the runic seals. 2. Each failed attempt will permanently destroy the gems. Because of this limitation, Asher wanted the finger ring armor, a runic pen bought by one of the students who accidentally imprinted his mana on this artifact. And due to that person's lack of knowledge in runes, Asher could never unlock his sword's true potential. But now, he had the time to learn rune arts himself and become the owner of this artifact. He could take his time to unseal his sword completely. Asher unsheathed the sword from its black scabbard, revealing the dull black blade, which would change when its first seal was unlocked. He checked the schedule for runic theory, and it showed that his classes would start next week. Less than class schedule next week, 2 p.m., runic theory, Professor Neiman greater than. It was time for first years to finally interact with the seniors, and most clubs and small factions, including the most prominent faction, the Blood faction, would start their recruitment. But Asher was not interested in joining these clubs and factions as they added no real value to him. However, he was still interested in one club. It was the same club he had joined in his previous life, and it was the same club where Alyssa and Asher first talked. Not the time yet, Asher knew the best time to go to that club. Asher received the notification he had been waiting for. Less than Tom, boss, when should we begin our first mission? Greater than. Asher looked at the message. From tomorrow, his classes for the mage course would start, and after attending the last runic theory class, he could leave the World Academy. He replied and looked at his sword, especially the blade, which was still a dull shade of black. Soon, Asher muttered. His next priority was the mission that he needed Dane and Kai for, and reaching level 30 to learn more about the system and the beast reward that he still didn't know anything about. In the faculty block, a man could be seen pacing back and forth in his office. What if they found out? The man muttered. No, surely they wouldn't trouble him after all those incidents, the man kept talking to himself. Sweat was forming on his face, and his heart was racing with anxiety. Knock knock. The man turned towards his office door as his thoughts were going wild. Professor Argus, I have brought the documents you asked for, a man's voice came from behind the door. Argus breathed in relief as he changed his expression. Come in. Argus allowed him to enter. The staff member entered his room with some documents in his hands. We have fixed your schedule for the next 3 weeks, he said, contemporary romance. But you should still confirm your timings with other professors in case of a last-minute change, he said, but Argus's mind was absent. Ah, yeah, you can go now, Argus spoke as he told the man to leave. Okay, tell me if you need anything else, the man said as he left the room soon after. Damn it. What should I do? Argus was not having the best day of his life. He had heard the rumors about Asher Greville having nearly 60,000 GP, and everyone was surprised by the amount of GP he had acquired. Everyone was busy guessing how Asher had managed to get such an amount, but only Argus knew the source of all that GP. It was Argus's money or the GP from the past few years for not rewarding the students in his class who came from normal backgrounds. It was exactly after the meeting that Demarcus called after the ranker's announcement. Argus was coming out of the room, and his expressions were normal. My name was not there, Argus sighed in relief as he reached the lift to get to his floor. Although he was a bit nervous when Demarcus started the meeting, his name was absent among the corrupt professors' names. Ha ha ha, you will never find the evidence against me, Argus was sure. He was cautious while manipulating the supply of GP that 3-star professors were given, and he had made a lot of money in the outside world through this. Professor, a student wants to meet you, he said. Send them back, I have no time, Argus said with an annoyed look. Ads by Pub Future. And the best part was that he never used his own identity for trading GP and always used students from normal backgrounds to sell his GP for him. He made sure that the student he targeted had no special connections and that his family could be targeted easily. But during the meeting, he was still a bit nervous, even though he tried to look like he was not involved. In a few hours, his assistant came into his office. Professor, a student wants to meet you, he said. Send them back. I have no time, Argus said with an annoyed look. Ah, it's Asher Greville, his assistant told Argus. Asher Greville. Argus looked up, and his assistant nodded. Send him here then, Argus told, as it was not favorable for him to deny Asher Greville. What does he want with me? Argus had no idea. Does he want to gain my favor? Argus guessed as he was one of the 3-star professors. In a minute, a young man with crimson-red eyes entered the room. The assistant closed the door, and Asher sat in front of Argus. So what's the reason behind your visit, Greville? Argus said with an amused look on his face. How did the meeting go, Professor Argus? Asher answered with a question. What meeting? Argus didn't know what meeting Asher was talking about. Asher looked at him with an indifferent face. How does it feel to not get expelled from World Academy? Asher said. It made Argus frown as he didn't understand what Asher was saying. See this. Maybe you will understand what I am trying to say. Asher clicked on his ID bracelet, and a big hologram appeared. What? How is this possible? Argus's eyes went wide with shock as there were multiple pieces of evidence about him abusing his students while threatening them. But I made sure there was no evidence. Argus couldn't believe it, but he collected his thoughts. What do you want? Argus knew that Asher coming into his office to show him this meant he wanted something from him in exchange for keeping things quiet. It seems to teach in World Academy for so many years has made you forget about the outside world, Professor Argus, Asher said as he clicked on his ID bracelet. Then, many pictures of Argus's family and his sons could be seen. You should not forget that your family lives in Somalia, Asher told him as Argus's face went pale. He had destroyed many students' families by using them, but despite being this corrupt, he loved his family more than anything in the world. Now be a nice little puppet for me until graduation, and we can forget this ever happened. Asher proposed an idea, and Argus had no way of denying his request. Argus was the one who had used all his GP that he had saved by his corrupt methods, and the total came out to 60,000 GP. Yeah, I just need to hold on for 4 years, Argus thought. Asher's threat only worked on Argus because he had enough evidence to remove Argus from World Academy. In addition, World Academy offered family protection for all their professors so that students with backgrounds like Asher could not threaten them. Currently, Argus's family was living in a very safe area in Somalia that was near the headquarters of the World Association, and the security of his family was confirmed. If Soran was considered Greville's territory, then the entire city of Worms was under World Association. So even for Asher, it would be difficult to target Argus's family. Even getting Tom, who was just a civilian from Worms, required him to contact the special team from Moonlight Guild that were experts in such jobs. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In Ranker's dorm, Asher was training his mana for 5 hours. Host has increased mana +3. His progress slowed, because his body was trying to stabilize his current mana. His meridians absorbed most of his mana, so till now, all his stats except intelligence and charm had gone up by 5 to 6 stats. Less than class schedule, spell weaving, black element greater than. Asher stopped as he got up to get ready for his classes. He saw that his black element class was scheduled for the day after tomorrow, and today he only needed to attend a spell weaving class, which was the mandatory course for all majors. In a particular classroom. It would be my honor if you could come to teach here, Arman spoke to the person in the hologram with a respectful tone. I would have turned it down, but I want to meet my grandchildren, so I guess I can help you guys, Helena replied with a smile on her face. Asher still didn't know that Farnes had invited Helena to World Academy, and his first class would be with Helena Raven herself. She was the only person in this world he wanted to avoid the most. Thank you. I will inform the students about your visit, Arman said. No need. I want to surprise that little boy, Helena replied. Okay. As you wish, Arman bowed as he was talking to the strongest woman in the world, who was even compared to the SSS rank hunters. The call was finished, and Arman looked at the paperwork before him. He still couldn't believe that Farnes had invited a person like Helena to World Academy. Although he was sure that Farnes would keep tabs on Helena, as she was a very dangerous individual due to her special bloodline ability, he still wanted to ensure that the students unrelated to black elements stayed far from the class. I guess we can have our class here. Arman picked an arena that was present in the outer sector of World Academy. He stood up to get permission from Farnes because such changes required his approval. In the Raven family mansion, Helena was sitting in her office. World Academy sounds fun, Helena smiled. It was also surprising for her that Farnes had invited her for a special lecture. I wonder if that boy still sees the world around him the same way, Helena remembered the young Asher. She had used her bloodline ability to see Asher's memories when he was young. She was surprised as Asher interpreted everything around him differently than others. Her bloodline ability was stronger if the target was much weaker than her. She last tried to see his emotions and memories when he was 6 or 7 years old. I would need to see it myself, Helena smiled. It had been long since she had met Asher, so this was a great excuse to meet him at World Academy. Professor Elsa Robles was sitting in her office, looking at the list of students attending the spell weaving class, which was part of the mage course. There are more mages this year, she noted, seeing that the number of mages was greater than in previous years. Mages were rarer than swordsmen because even without talent, a person could train in swordsmanship, but without talent, one could never become a successful mage. She stood up as it was time for her class to start. Asher checked the location of the classroom he was going to attend. Then, he entered the class and saw many students staring at him. Rumors about auctions were going wild, and many thought that Asher was trying to offend the senior year students. They couldn't guess why Asher would try to do that because now the seniors could interact with the first year students and wouldn't like people like Asher who disrespected them. Although Asher's background made it extremely difficult for any senior to go against him in any way, there were still people inside World Academy that could make his life difficult. And Leonard Turvian was one of them. The reason Leonard got angry at Asher was quite simple, being the son of the World Association chairman, not once in his life had anyone dared to question his worth. On the contrary, even heirs of elite families treated him with equal respect. Asher had not only disrespected him once but also made him lose like an idiot in the auction. But most believed that Leonard wouldn't let this matter go easily either. There was a reason Leonard treated everyone he met with respect while hiding his intentions. Asher walked to several empty seats in the back and sat in one of them. Most people in close vicinity were averting their eyes to avoid trouble with him. Amelia arrived a few minutes later and saw Asher sitting in one of the seats. She walked up to him and sat beside him. Unfortunately, Damien was not in the mage course, and Amelia hadn't made any friends either because most people were afraid of approaching her due to her background and Asher. Soon after, everyone began appearing, including Elena, Eva, Licia, and Gavin, who were in the room. However, most were sitting in different rows than Asher and Amelia. Amelia turned to look at Asher, who was staring out the window. Seeing everyone talking with each other, she felt a bit lonely, and Damien's face popped into her mind. Ads by Pub Future. This is boring, Amelia muttered, tapping her finger on the table. The voices in the class died down as Elsa entered, followed by several staff members carrying various books. Elsa entered the classroom and looked in front of her. "Welcome to the spell weaving class," Elsa said with a smile. "As you all know, this class is the very basic and most important part that makes you a mage," Elsa said, and the screen behind her changed. "Now, before I start teaching you about spells, does anyone here know the difference between a mage and other hunters?" Elsa asked, and many people raised their hands. "You," Elsa pointed out a brown-haired girl who stood up. "Mages are people who use their mana core as storage for their mana and use it to nourish their spells instead of their bodies," she replied. "Yeah, but that's not entirely true," Elsa said as she told her to sit down. "Even though mages are considered physically weaker than, for example, a swordsman, it doesn't mean our physical bodies are not nourished by our mana," Elsa said as an image of a mana gem appeared behind her. "Let's start with the basics of ranking up," Elsa said as she made a ball of mana in her hand. "This is your mana core," Elsa pointed as she made a circular motion with her fingers, and multiple rings started to hover around her. Many students were surprised she could handle mana in such a refined and delicate manner. It was extremely difficult for anyone to use mana freely to make shapes like this, so most people used spells to shape that mana into elements. These rings are the symbol of ranking up from one rank to another. So treat them like a band of energy that binds the massive amount of mana in one place, Elsa said as the rings started rotating. "Now, a mage doesn't use this mana to nourish their bodies, but it's because our mana meridians are more suited for the travel of mana than the absorption of mana," she said. "But then again, we have mages like augmenters, who can still buff their own and others' bodies to increase their strengths," Elsa pointed at Amelia. "If we look at just the fundamentals of awakening as a hunter, the mana core is the same for all human beings," Elsa explained. "But then a distinction among them appears that makes you choose a path according to your talent. As you know, to become a mage, you need to have different mana meridians than a swordsman, which helps you construct a spell rather than absorbing that mana to form an aura," Elsa said. "As I said, I am an SS rank mage, but my speed doesn't fall below most of the other S rank hunters. So, why, despite being a mage, is my speed comparable to an S rank hunter?" Elsa raised a question. "The answer lies in the mana core and rings. As I said before, the ring formation symbolizes ranking up. It is theorized that the ring formation around the mana core does not happen until your bodies reach a certain threshold," Elsa said, and students started nodding. "But then again, mages are naturally weaker than the hunters of the same rank, but an SS rank mage is considered more powerful than an SS rank swordsman in most cases. And why is that? And why do we consume more mana gems for ranking up than non-mage hunters?" She questioned the whole class, contemporary romance. "Because, unlike non-mage hunters, we use most of our mana in our spells and to form the mana pool, which fuels those spells. Unlike non-mage hunters, our ring formation is different, and this is the reason mages need more mana gems to rank up than non-mage hunters. And this is why non-mage hunters can never become as strong as mage hunters of the same rank, and doing so is useless because it is how our bodies are structured," she said as she looked at Asher. All the students were looking at Asher, and they felt he was disrespecting them as mages, thinking it was easy to become a mage. Although there are people with special bloodline abilities that help them, a natural mage will always be better at spell casting than a non-mage. And this difference will only grow bigger in the upper ranks where the spells become the embodiments of your thoughts, Elsa said while looking at Asher. "Any questions?" Elsa asked as one boy raised his hand. "Yes," Elsa spoke. "Professor, couldn't people with more mana gems simply rank up faster than those without them?" he asked. "Then why do you think that some people in the elite families are stuck at S rank for their whole life despite the number of resources they have?" Elsa asked, but the boy had no answer. Mana gems are a pure source of mana that most hunters use to rank up and increase their strengths, but that alone will not help you rank up. Elsa turned, and the image on the screen changed to a human body. You all know about mana circulation techniques, right? So each mage uses those techniques to circulate their mana and fill their mana pool. And each of you has your unique threshold that needs to be filled, and some have bigger thresholds, and some have smaller thresholds depending on your talents, Elsa said. And seeing them is very easy, as people with bigger thresholds will rank up faster than their peers. And this is why those who reach higher ranks at a young age are considered stronger and more talented than those in similar ranks, Elsa said. But that doesn't mean they needn't meet the thresholds either. Without proper resources, even a talented individual will rank up slowly, and even with resources, they still need time to hone their bodies until they're ready for the next rank up. That is where people use mana gems, Elsa said. Using mana gems at breakthroughs is advised, as it will affect your threshold, and especially in mages, you can increase your mana pool a bit as well, Elsa said. But let's put this topic aside for now. Let's start with spell creation for today's class, Elsa said as she pointed at the books she had brought. Elsa pointed at the books, and the eyes of the students drifted to the books with a unique red cover on top of them. This is the special book I have written, as it contains all tier 1 and 2 spells, Elsa said. Each element had multiple spells. To this day, some people would enhance or even create new ones. But each spell was judged in tiers. There were a total of 6 tiers in which all magic spells were placed. First tier spells were spells like Fireball, etc. Each hunter could at least use first circle spells even if they were not mages, but even first circle spells required a lot of effort to learn. The distinction in spells was made according to the difficulty of the spells. However, this difficulty didn't depend entirely on the mage's rank but rather on whether the person could construct and execute the spell completely. In other words, a spell's complexity was not solely determined by the mage's rank but also by their ability to understand, create, and perform the spell effectively. But this doesn't mean an A-rank mage could perform a tier 4 spell just because they were talented enough to do it. Such spells required a large amount of mana, and if a low-rank mage used a higher tier magic, it would cost them more mana. First to second tier spells were mostly performed by A and D rank mages, but if the D+ mage were talented, they could try and perform a few tier 3 spells. But mostly, B to D+ rank mages could use tier 3 spells. Tier 4 spells were only used by B+ to S+ rank mages, and tier 5 spells could only be used by SS rank mages. The only one in the world who could try and use tier 6 spells was currently Silvus Grandis, an SSS rank hunter known as the Mage Association chairman. These tiers were assigned by the level of mana and complexity a spell required. The path of a mage was more evolving than a swordsman's, but it depended heavily on whether you had the affinity and talent for a mage. But still, there was a big flaw for a mage against a swordsman, and that was speed. The issue of speed arose because although it got easier to cast lower tier spells as they ranked up, it didn't mean that higher tier spells could be cast quickly. Although mages have worked on reducing the time for spell casting for years, the complexity of the higher tier spells was so high that it was impossible to enhance them. There were also space element spells, in which the world had never seen a spell above tier 4. And even casting tier 4 spells in the space element was a big taboo because the risks were too high. And then there were miscellaneous magic types, which were unique to a person, and each of those unique elements had their own spells. But some of them never reached beyond tier 5 or 4. I will give them to you one each and make sure you don't lose them, as I will grade your spell creations from these books each month, Elsa said. Ads by PubFuture. The staff members started distributing those books, and each student got one. Asher looked at the thick book with the red cover and special gold engravings. He could see Elsa Robles engraved on the book. Unlike the books in the Great Library, which were written by great mages of the past and still used today by students and professors to understand and develop new spells. Elsa's book focused more on teaching an efficient way to cast tier 1 or 2 spells. Open the fourth page of the book, Elsa said as the students opened the book and turned the page to reach page number 4. We will take the fire element as an example, Elsa said as a small fireball appeared in her hand. This is a tier 1 spell, casting it is fairly easy. Of course, there is a bit of imagination involved, but it doesn't take much time to cast the spell, Elsa said as the fireball disappeared. But if we notch up the complexity of the same spell, we get this, Elsa said as a small tornado of fire started to form over her palm. Can someone tell me the fundamentals of constructing a basic spell? Elsa asked. Eva raised her hand, and Elsa allowed her to answer. Imagine, shape, and execute, she said as Elsa smiled. Correct. You can sit down now, Elsa said. First is visualization, the most important factor needed. Before even trying to think of a spell, Elsa said. Shape, or what we call the step where we make or construct the spell itself, and the last step is using mana to bring that idea and use elements present all around to perform the spell, Elsa explained. On the page you are seeing right now is the step written for constructing a revolving fireball, which is a complex version of a fireball, Elsa said. And if you turn the pages, there are multiple variations you can apply to a single fireball, Elsa spoke, and many students started turning the pages. Asher turned the page as he saw various fireballs and their uses in a fight. His brain could easily comprehend these concepts, but the others struggled to understand every part. For Asher, who had reached higher ranks in his previous life, his visualization was strong as his mind still remembered the sensation he felt back then. This was why his magic mastery was already at novice level 84%. First, let's start constructing a tier 2 spell for today's class, Elsa said. The spell we will be creating is a ring of fire around your hands. Elsa raised her hand, and a small ring of fire formed around her arms. Remember that your mana doesn't hurt you until you lose the connection, so concentrate hard, and if you feel like you cannot continue, cut off the mana supply and stop the spell, Elsa warned. There was a possibility of them burning themselves or others. We will make a small ring of fire, which is the easiest version of the tier 2 spell Ring of Fire. Elsa described the spell's name, and many people noted the name. Such spells were named so that the students could find books regarding the spells in the library to help with their spell casting. She used chalk as she started drawing a small circle with a few special characters in between them, connected with lines. This is what we call the spell, Elsa pointed at the drawing before her. Now try to move the mana around mana rings to shape the flow represented here, she pointed at the lines. The characters you are seeing are the chants that will help you cast the spell perfectly, Elsa said. Although it was possible to cast without chanting, it required a more delicate spell construction near your core. Many people even used their hands for spell construction, which was the easiest thing to do. But with finer control, the spell could be performed within the mana core itself. Asher looked at the spell drawn in front of him. He could already see that he could remove the chant, as it was the easiest example Elsa had taken so that everyone could do it easily. Repeat this chant, we will start from here, Elsa said as she pointed out students. One by one, the students stood up as they raised their hands, and started pronouncing the chants they had learned about. Some students failed, but some succeeded after taking their time. Elsa was patient. This class helped her gauge each student's potential. Now, Elena, can you try the spell? Elsa looked at Elena, who stood up. Here, Elena raised her hands, and without a chant, a ring of fire formed around her wrist like a bracelet. Wow! As expected of Elena Rothschild, some students praised her. Well done, Elsa smiled, as she could see Elena had a lot of potential to become a high-ranking mage. Contemporary romance. She then asked Eva, who used the chant, but her spell formed quickly compared to others. After some time, Elsa finally picked Asher, as she wanted to show him that this class was not meant to be a joke. Even though she was Sylvie's friend, her pride as a mage made her see Asher in a negative light. She thought that Asher was mocking what a mage could do. She knew his talent for swordsmanship was high and that he could have been bored studying swords under others. Now, Asher Greville, can you show us what you can do? Elsa said as the whole class saw Asher stand up. Asher looked at Elsa's drawing, and then his crimson-red eyes turned towards Elsa, who was looking at him. Now, Asher Greville, can you show us what you can do? Elsa said as the whole class saw Asher stand up. Elsa was waiting to see Asher's spell casting, as she needed an excuse to make sure Asher shifted his courses. Asher was her friend's son, and she didn't want him to waste his potential. It was a perfectly normal thought, as no one could excel in both sword and mage paths. Humans were simply not built to have a mana meridian of a mage and form aura as well. Asher raised his hand as he saw the structure of mana flow drawn on the board. His mind could easily form the structure of the spell, but he could see useless things in the spell that wasted mana. This kind of observation was only possible because he had a higher rank in his previous life. The mana near his core started to swerve around as he formed a spell near his mana heart. It was one of the methods new mages used, as controlling the mana near the core was easiest. Although casting at outer body parts was the fastest way to chant, execute, or even do silent spells. Everyone in this class formed the spell near their mana hearts, as only people like Elsa, who had reached the pinnacle of human magic, could cast spells instantly and form them even outside their bodies. It was an extremely difficult task, but it was possible for mages who had spent years and years learning about a single element. Asher could feel the ring structure was weak and had no near purpose. Moreover, the spell was only made for demonstration, so it had no offensive capabilities. But in Asher's mind, such a spell was flawed, contemporary romance. He tinkered with the spell enough to change it and could feel the mana rotating around his arms as the ring of fire formed. Asher looked at the massive ring of fire twice the size of the original spell. Elsa could even notice that Asher's ring of fire had a lot of power behind it despite its size. Amelia backed up a bit as the ring of fire's heat grew. Elsa was surprised by Asher's innovation, so she was about to tell Asher to stop the spell. But the next moment, she saw him point a finger towards her. Release, Asher muttered as a huge fire vortex launched toward Elsa. His sudden attack made many students stare at him with wide eyes. A student attacking a professor was something unheard of. The vortex originated from his ring of fire, and it was something Asher had enhanced as he got comfortable with spell construction. Elsa was a bit surprised as a fire vortex came toward her. What a joke, Elsa thought in her mind. She was known as the fire manipulator and one of the best mages who could control the fire element freely. Elsa didn't even move a finger as the fire shooting toward her stopped and started swirling around her. It was easy for an SS rank hunter like her to take over his spells and alter the mana that formed the spell itself. This showed Elsa's huge talent as a mage. Ads by Pub Future. Asher looked at Elsa, who took his attack quite easily. Can I know what you're doing, Asher Greville? Elsa spoke, looking directly at Asher's eyes. Attacking me with your spell, do you know what consequences such actions could have? Elsa asked Asher. It was a demonstration, Professor, Asher replied. So attacking others is now a demonstration. Elsa said. Asher didn't say anything else, as he knew Elsa wouldn't take action against him since there were no rules prohibiting students from challenging a professor. Asher had only demonstrated a simplified version of the fire vortex spell. But I will commend you for using such an approach for this spell, Elsa said, but Elena raised her hand. Yes, Elena, Elsa said as Elena stood up. Professor, wasn't that spell a completely different one? Elena asked. Even I can do a fire vortex, Elena said confidently. She was sure of her skills as a mage and saw an opportunity to bring Asher down. She was convinced that what Asher used was not the same spell anymore. She was confident that she could create a fire vortex as well. Well, what's your answer, Asher Greville? Elsa turned and asked Asher. Although she knew the answer to Elena's question, she wanted to see what Asher thought about his spell. Furthermore, she wanted to see whether he was serious about studying as a mage. Do I have any reason to explain my understanding? Asher asked Elsa. Sure, but if you do, I will reward you with extra grades for this month, Elsa offered. But you need to redraw the spell to a similar one as yours here. Elsa pointed at the board behind her. Asher left his seat and walked to the board as many eyes stared at him, particularly his face. Even Alyssa looked at him, curious about how Asher had changed the spell. She had performed similarly to Eva, so she wanted to see how Asher would explain himself. Reaching the board, Asher saw the spell drawn in front of him. A circle-shaped spell connected together to form a circular formation that brought out the power of particular elements. These two lines here have no value, Asher said as Elena and Eva started to watch him erase lines. And there's no need for this line to connect at this junction. He pointed at a junction of 6 lines and removed one of them. He made a few more changes to the fundamental structure of the spell, then drew the spell he had used just now. This is absurd, Elena voiced out. This spell uses too much mana for a fire vortex, Elena said as a few students agreed with her. But most of them were too scared of the young man standing before them to speak out with her. Why should I care if you don't have enough mana for the spell? Asher said as he stared at Elena. I am using the spell, not you, he said, his indifferent eyes making Elena a bit nervous. Elsa quietly watched the whole class. Well, Elena Rothschild, you are saying the spell uses too much mana for an A-rank mage, right? Elsa asked, and Elena nodded. But let me ask you, did I ask you all to do a perfect spell for a D-rank mage? Elsa questioned her. Producing a fire vortex from the spell, do you think you can do the same? Elsa asked, but Elena had no answer. You can go back, Elsa said to Asher, who returned to his seat. Well, I want you all to think about whether you can perfect the spell to suit yourself, Elsa asked. Do you think you can cast the fire vortex this fast? She questioned the whole class, but no answer came. But this is what we will study, Elsa said. The path of a mage is about creating and modifying the spells to suit you, and I want all of you to come up with your variations of the spell within a month, Elsa said. Even a low-tier spell that is enhanced and reconstructed can be stronger and faster than a higher-tier spell, Elsa spoke. Well, it will become impossible to enhance and change the structure of higher-tier spells, so I want you all to practice this on Tier 1 and Tier 2 spells, Elsa instructed. Well, you can sit down now if you got your answers, Elsa said as she looked at Elena. What a show-off, Gavin thought as he looked back at Asher, jealous of Asher grabbing everyone's attention. Well, as I promised, I will count this as your monthly assignment, Elsa said as she looked at Asher. That's all for today. You will be notified about your next class, so we will meet next week, Elsa said, but Asher wasn't interested. He would be out of the World Academy after his runic theory class. Although he had attended this class, he wanted to learn about the elements themselves. Black element, Asher thought, looking at his next class tomorrow. It was a class involving the seniors, and most of them would be present there. Elsa turned as she saw some students waiting at the door. Professor, we wanted to make an announcement, a senior year student asked. Well, my class is over, so you can go in now, Elsa replied. Thank you, the senior year students entered. Hello, first years. I am Zua, the head of the management committee, a girl spoke as she looked around the class cheerfully. Elena looked at Zua, the senior year student she had met in the student council room. Zua looked at Elena and Eva as she winked at them with a smile. Did something happen? The first year students started asking each other. Okay, listen to me, Zua grabbed everyone's attention. I am Zua, a third year student, and I am the head of the management committee, she introduced herself. Her exuberant nature attracted the attention of many students around her. We are in charge of managing all the student activities and events, and I am here to make an announcement for all of you, Zua said. As you know, the seniors will start interacting with you guys and invite you to their clubs and factions, Zua explained. But first, you all need to understand that factions and clubs are different, she said. Factions are formed when a group of students works under one name, and there are many small factions, most of them are made around influential personalities, Zua said. The most famous faction currently is the Blood faction, which is under Leonard Tervian. She didn't need to explain it as most people already knew about Leonard and his faction. But clubs are different, each club is made for a gathering of people with similar motives, and you need to get permission from a professor to supervise that club, Zua said. There are multiple clubs inside World Academy, and many seniors will approach you guys to invite you to the clubs, so join one if you like them, she said. Is it compulsory to join them? A guy sitting in the front row asked. Not really, but I would still recommend joining one as it's better than joining none, she replied. There are multiple varieties of clubs, from casual ones to serious ones, so take a look and see what fits your best, Zua said. And you will see more senior year students from now on, and there are some classes where you might attend together with senior year students, Zua said, but some students' faces didn't look good. And most of them were from class 3. There were many rumors that you should avoid some seniors. Okay, so you might see some second or third year students coming to your classrooms to inform you about their clubs, Zua said. That's all, have a good day. Zua waved her hands as she left the room. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the Raven family mansion. Helena was sitting as she was talking with Sylvie on the hologram. So, you are going to World Academy? Sylvie asked. Yeah, they asked me for a special lecture, Helena said with a smile. Sylvie frowned as Helena was one person they would not want to invite to World Academy. However, she could not guess why they had invited her. It was true that there was nobody better than Helena at Black Element, but it was still not worth it. They will keep an eye on her anyway, Sylvie thought. She didn't think too hard about it. Wait, are you going to check his memories again? Sylvie asked with a serious look on her face. Maybe. I want to see if he has changed or not, Helena replied. It doesn't matter, I believe in him, Sylvie said, but Helena did not reply. It was a conversation of years ago that Sylvie didn't want to talk about, and neither did Helena push her. Years ago, when Asher was around 7 years old, Helena was visiting the Greville estate. So, where's my cute grandson? Helena asked, but she saw Sylvie thinking about something else. Oh, he is in his room. Sylvie noticed that her mother was looking at her, so she quickly replied. What happened? Helena asked as it was rare for Sylvie to be this absent-minded. It's about the party that happened months ago. Sylvie told Helena about the incident where Asher was pushed into a pool of water. And how he didn't react much. Why don't I check his memories? Helena said. There is no need for that, Mother, Sylvie said, but Helena had already decided. Helena went up, opened the room door, and saw a young little boy sitting at his table reading a book. The little boy looked up to see Helena as his crimson red eyes stared at the middle-aged looking lady who had just walked in. Then, seeing similar features to his mother, the little boy easily guessed the person's identity. Hello, grandmother, Asher said, but his face didn't show much emotion. Hello, cutie, Helena got on her knees as she looked at the little boy before her. What were you reading? Helena asked as she looked at the book. All the books around him were related to human emotions or something that helped with those things. Why is he reading these? Helena thought in her mind. These books were presented to most elite family children, but they rarely used them as they rarely cared about manners and other things. But it was the first time Helena had seen a 7-year-old reading such a book, contemporary romance. They help me understand others, Asher replied truthfully, but his voice was monotone. That's very smart of you. Helena raised her hand to ruffle Asher's hair. The moment Helena touched Asher's head, her eyes turned completely black, and Asher closed his eyes as the memories and emotions of the 7-year-old were being seen and felt by Helena. She could see the world from Asher's point of view, and everything appeared dull. It was almost as if the world in Asher's eyes was devoid of color and life. He felt nothing, unlike many other people Helena had used her bloodline ability on. What is this boy thinking? Helena was shocked to see Asher's memories. It was almost unthinkable for her to see a 7-year-old feel that he was different from others. He felt no emotions for others. It seemed that the boy had struggled to connect with others, unable to understand or share his emotions. She saw the memory of the boy who felt nothing when he looked at his own mother, but he noticed that he was different and tried to change. It was the effort of a 7-year-old who wanted to understand other normal people and act like them. She didn't sense the inner madness in his mind, as it began sometime after Helena's visit. Instead, it was something that warped the way he looked at the whole world. What should I tell Sylvie? Helena didn't know. She had never felt such a thing in another person before, and it was the first time she felt such distant emotions that were almost non-existent. But Helena decided to hide this from Sylvie, as she didn't want her daughter to think her son was emotionless and felt nothing for her. She also saw his memories about the accident at the party, but she didn't feel fear when Asher was almost drowning. Instead, it was as if his emotions were numb to an extreme point. Helena removed her hands as the little Asher turned his head to look at her. Continue your study. I will go downstairs now, Helena said as Asher nodded back. He saw Helena go back and open another book that he was planning to read. Helena went downstairs and saw Sylvie, who was about to leave. What did you see, mother? Sylvie asked. His view of the world around him is a bit more emotionless than others, but I feel like he will grow and learn eventually, Helena lied. Of course, he is different. My baby is smarter than others, Sylvie said with a smile. Helena didn't tell her then because she thought maybe it was due to Asher's high intelligence that he was like this. The result might have been different if she had seen his inner madness. Asterisk 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 asterisk. It was the next day already, and Helena was about to leave for the World Academy. Asher, who was training, still didn't know about Helena's visit, but he had received the message that Arman was taking the class in the outer sector without any senior year students. Instead, it was a class only for the first-year students. Asher stepped out of his training room, his indifferent eyes, now strikingly different from the young Asher in Helena's memories, fixated on the screen before him. His screen displayed the current condition of the share market around the world. The effect of killing them will soon be noticed, Asher recalled Gemard and Robert. He closed the screen in front of him. It was the data that Tom sent him daily, so there was no chance of him receiving incorrect information. The timings will overlap, Asher thought of his plans for next week. Asher stepped onto a large balcony with an excellent view of World Academy. He looked in a particular direction where the famous trial grounds were located. It was a place Asher wanted to visit because he had missed it in his previous life. This was the reason why most elite families sent their children to World Academy. Outer sector of World Academy. Why were so many staff members present there? A group of students going to the inner sector talked with each other, contemporary romance. I don't know, maybe they're working on something, a guy replied. There were no announcements for any events, right? A girl asked. I don't think so, another guy replied. It was rare for this many staff members to be together in one place unless an event was happening. They didn't know anything about it, as Arman had not notified anybody other than Farnas about Helena's surprise visit. The special security team was gathered in another part of the World Academy. Why did Sir Zemal call us? Even they didn't know about Helena's visit. They were called by Zemal, head of security of World Academy. He was an SS rank hunter, and his team was responsible for ensuring no harm came to the academy. We will know soon, a guy replied as Zemal was about to show up. The door opened, and they saw Zemal enter the room, looking around at his team. Sir Zemal is wearing his armor. His team was confused. Zemal wore a blue-colored armor specially made for him by the Artisans Association. His armor was famous, so it was evident that his team knew about it as well. But it was odd for Zemal to wear armor like this unless he was entering a dungeon or fighting someone more powerful than him. They had never seen him wear the armor inside World Academy. I will keep the meeting short. Zemal looked at his team members standing upright. We have a special visitor coming to World Academy, Zemal said. Recently, our principal decided to hold special classes for the students, and the first visitor is a special one, so I need all of you to stay on guard, he said. The Shadow Empress, Helena Raven, is coming to World Academy, and I want all of you to make sure that she doesn't interact with any students outside the class, Zemal ordered. Although Farnas would watch Helena, they couldn't be careless and leave any openings. The security team was surprised when they heard Helena's name. They couldn't believe the principal would let someone like Helena visit World Academy so casually. But they didn't know that it wasn't for a special class, but Farnas wanted to know if Helena was the one who told Asher that piece of information. Typically, they would have taken their time to organize the class outside World Academy with the consent of every student, but this time it was unilaterally decided by Farnas. Will the pillars gather? One of the members asked. Pillars were the special team of security not directly under Zemal. The pillars were SS rank hunters, and they only listened to Farnas. Their only job was to guard the trials ground. No, they will not unless the situation calls for it, Zemal replied. Ads by Pub Future. Helena was an invited guest, and she was famous for her mannerisms. Despite possessing a bloodline ability that made her the worst person to visit World Academy, they were confident she wouldn't do anything against the rules. The meeting was over quickly, and the security team members began to disperse. Zemal looked in a particular direction and disappeared from his spot. Outside World Academy, the Guildmaster of the Moonlight Guild was traveling in a car, and behind her was her special team of shadows, all trained by her personally. Guildmaster, are you sure we shouldn't go with you? A female voice was heard inside Helena's car. No need. I was the only one invited, Helena replied, and there were no further questions. The car stopped, and one of the shadows opened the door for Helena. She exited the car as she looked at the portal dome and a familiar face in front of her. It's been a long time, Damarcus's boy, Helena said as Xander Damarcus stood before the portal dome waiting for her. It was normal for Helena to know Xander personally, as he was once the heir of the Damarcus family but had given up his spot to his younger brother. Welcome, Lady Helena, Xander said as he looked at all the shadows behind Helena. He knew that all of them were hunters trained by Helena herself, and they followed her order without fail. Don't worry, they will wait here, Helena said as she looked at Xander. Helena wore a black overcoat with the Moonlight Guild's insignia. The same insignia was present on all the shadows. Should we enter? Helena asked, and Xander made way for her to go ahead. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Asher exited the ranker's dorm and went to where Professor Erman had told his class to gather first. As he entered the room, he saw a few students and Licia Halcyon, who was already waiting there. The room's atmosphere went quiet as Asher quietly sat in one of the empty seats. They were waiting for Professor Erman to appear in the class. The wait was over soon, as they saw Arman appearing in front of them, looking at all the first-year students that appeared for today's class. Welcome to the Black Element class. You already know me, but I am Professor Arman, who teaches Black Element. Arman introduced himself. Today's class is a bit special. As you all know, we have decided to have special classes to broaden students' horizons and give them a chance to improve themselves even further, Arman said as the whole class looked at him. We have invited a special person for today's lecture that will happen in the outer sector. Arman's words made Asher look at him. And I am sure all of you already know about this person. She is known as the strongest woman in the world and the best in Black Element, Lady Helena Raven. Arman's words made Asher frown. This is only for first-year students, and you have the opportunity to learn from the best. So I hope all of you will keep your minds in the class, Arman said. I need to go back, but the staff member there will guide you to the outer sector, where the class will happen, Arman said as he soon disappeared. The students, including Licia, were excited to meet Helena, but only one person didn't want this to happen. Asher was thinking about what to do next, as he could not avoid meeting Helena. He stood as everyone was getting ready to move to the outer sector. I can't let her check my memories, Asher said to himself. He didn't want to repeat the incident that happened in the past. However, he was already thinking of ways to stop Helena from doing so. There was a special condition for Helena's ability. She needed to touch the target whose memories she wanted. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the outer sector, an elderly man stood before the teleportation gate, watching as it glowed and Xander DeMarcus and Helena Raven emerged. Zemal also appeared instantly as he looked at Helena Raven, who had entered World Academy. I'm grateful that you accepted the invite, Farnes said, looking at Helena. Well, I did it partially to meet my grandchildren, Helena replied, but she didn't look intimidated by Farnes. Would you like to have a cup of tea? Farnes offered. We can do it after the class, Helena refused. She was a resolute individual with little tolerance for putting off tasks or responsibilities. Helena's eyes looked at Zemal, who was wearing his armor. A smile appeared on her face as Zemal got a bit nervous. So where is the class going to be held? Helena asked. Zemal, guide our guest to the stadium where Professor Arman scheduled the class, Farnes said as Zemal nodded. Farnes and Xander disappeared, but both kept their eyes on Helena Raven, who was guided by Zemal. She didn't react much, Farnes thought to himself. He was carefully watching for any reaction from Helena, but nothing seemed off. However, he still had enough time after the class to talk with her and confirm his doubts. Soon they reached the fully covered stadium, and Helena could sense the presence of various S2 rank hunters around. It was obvious none of them were being complacent, and they took her presence seriously. Professor Arman is inside, Zemal respectfully said. You should relax a bit, Helena said as she walked towards the entrance. Zemal was still being cautious as he looked at Helena's figure. Being too strict on yourself will restrict your vision so much that you won't sense the danger looming beside you, Helena said, but Zemal was confused. Zemal squinted as he didn't understand what Helena was trying to say. I will take your advice, Zemal said, but he didn't mean it. But Zemal's eyes widened as Helena's figure disappeared in front of him. He was about to flare his mana to look around him, but he stopped as he saw Helena standing beside him. Relax, Helena said with a laugh. Zemal looked at Helena, who got so close to him. He couldn't believe that they were both SS rank hunters. Helena entered the huge stadium and saw Professor Arman, who came out to greet her.